Welcome back to Nature Labs on BC election night. The ballots continue to be counted. Results are beginning to come in quite quickly. But as that happens, a few questions have been coming up, and I want to recap them for you to make sure that everyone's totally understanding what exactly is going on. John Rustad and the BC Conservatives, that is different from Pierre Poilievre and the Federal Conservative Party. Of course, both are called conservatives, both are conservative in ideology, but they're different parties. Just as David Eby's NDP and Jagmeet Singh's NDP federally are both of the NDP, variety of ideology, sort of more left-leaning, in some cases even a little bit socialist, but they still march to the beat of their own drummer, which means they're slightly different. They're not exactly the same parties, even if they're part of the same larger political family. However, what's important to note about John Rustad's BC Conservatives, that his vote really has elevated, in some cases kind of come out of nowhere, because of the similarity of the brand names between the BC Conservatives and Pierre Poilievre's Federal Conservatives, who, if you've not already known, are very much ahead in the polls federally, and his popularity, Pierre Poilievre's popularity, certainly has helped John Rustad. Many people probably think they're actually voting for Pierre Poilievre in this election, even though this is provincial and Pierre Poilievre is running federally. So don't make that mistake. Understand who you're voting for, who you're supporting. Understand that BC parties or provincial parties and federal parties might be of the same ideological bent, but they are different even if they're part of that same family. That's one. The second thing, of course, is, I covered a bit earlier tonight, but in case you missed it, the importance of understanding our electoral system. That's a first-past-the-post system. There's no electoral colleges, we're not American, and this isn't a popularity contest. So even though the polls right now show the NDP leading 45% to 43% for the Conservatives, that doesn't necessarily mean that's what the final result will be. It doesn't mean who wins the most votes gets to form government. In fact, there's a real chance in this election that John Rustad's BC Conservatives could collect the most votes or win the popular vote and still not form government. In fact, could be come up quite shy of that majority threshold. Because in a first-past-the-post system, it's who wins the most seats. And in BC this election, because of course every now and then we do censuses to see how our population has changed, and in BC they're adding new seats to the Legislative Assembly. There will be 93 seats in this election that will be challenged, and the winner of most seats, it need to be 47 to form a majority government. Of course, the Green Party could play a role in this election, just as they did in 2017, where they helped prop up a minority NDP government, even though Christy Clark's BC Liberal Party, kind of a conservative party, won the majority of seats. It wasn't a majority of all seats, and thus the NDP, with fewer seats than Christy Clark, were able to form a minority government with the help of the Greens. All of that is background to understand that tonight's very close race could end up, the Greens could play a critical role if it's a minority government for the Conservatives or for the NDP. And of course, it would have a big impact if one party can have a majority, because that means they get to form government and govern for the next 4 years in British Columbia. Just a refresher, you probably understand it, but in case you haven't got to that lesson in social studies, first past the post system is how we form governments in this country.